What up, y'all? Welcome back to Indy-Analysis. It's a good time. Today, we're going to be talking about the Utah Jazz. I'm co-host Jonathan Fridline.
And I am Alan J. Pantian, and like Fred said, we're talking about the Utah Jazz. And before we get into things, this is going to be a quicker episode just because there's, you'll see. I'll just pass it back to Fred for the lines and stuff.
I appreciate that. Nice little toss back. So, let's talk about their roster last season, like we normally do. Starting five looking like Mike Conley at the 1, then, Spida, Donovan Mitchell at the 2, Royce O'Neal, Bojan Bogdanovic. Was it Bojan Bogdanovic?
Bojan.
Bogdanovic.
Right,
Bojan, yeah. And then Rudy Gobert, the Frenchman, whatever you want to call him. And then off the bench, you got players like Jared Butler, Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, Rudy Gay, and Hassan Whiteside. Alan hinted at it already, but the Utah Jazz are entering what's called rebuild mode, sell mode. Pick your poison, it doesn't matter. Because, as you might know if you follow the NBA in any aspect, one of the biggest offseason moves this year has been Rudy Gobert being traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which kind of clues us into, the Utah Jazz are selling, rebuilding, whatever. So, really, we're not going to spend that much time talking about their previous season because they're going to be a 100% completely different team this year. So, it doesn't make much sense. But this is all I really want to say. We have some of their statistics, major team statistics laid out. And one kind of thing that I've noticed, they're very mid. They're pretty that's the only word I can think to describe the Utah Jazz. 3-point percentage, offensive points per game, field goal percentage, bench points per game, all these stats, they're literally 15 through 10 for all of them. There's no glaring positive, no glaring negative, unless you could say assists per game. They were 27th in the league. So I guess the Jazz realized, hey, this roster that we had last year, very mid, very not title contender-esque. So the front office is hey, let's rebuild, let's do some moves. And that's exactly what they did. So that's all I got for their 2021-2022 season.
Yeah. I will say, just a quick point, one actually really good set they had is that they were first in offensive rating with 116, but as we saw in the playoffs, their defensive rating, their defense was their Achilles heel per se, and that they could not guard Jalen Brunson, they could not guard Luka Doncic, they could not guard a soul out there, leaving Rudy Gobert on an island, trying to help, but also at the same time cover the corner. So that was kind of their downfall. They had no really good perimeter defenders, just good offensive players, but that was pretty much it. So that was the problem with the Jazz last year in the playoffs.
That's a Jazz recap in about a minute 30.
Yep, that's Indy-Analysis. We're done.
Nah. So everyone go on Instagram.
Got you guys there. But all right, so like Fred said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the on-court stuff. We're just going to hop in right into the offseason moves that they have made and what they should do. And so let's start with free agency. They haven't made any notable free agent signings. They lost Juancho Hernangomez, which is Bo Cruz. That's an automatic L in my book.
Dude,
you can't lose Bo Cruz.
They have no shot now.
Moving on to the trades, like Fred said, they dealt Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves, and I don't think you guys can I don't think I can over-exaggerate how big of a finesse this was for the Jazz, and then that they finessed the Timberwolves heavily.
Danny Ainge, first-class finesser.
First-class finesser, for sure. But so let me tell you the deal. They got 4 rotational players in Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, who I think he's a rookie or he's going to sophomore year, and Walker Kessler, who I think is a rookie, Jared Vanderbilt, who I think he's pretty underrated. He's a versatile defender, a young player who can definitely develop into a nice player. But they also got four first-round picks and one pick swap, which is basically another first-round pick. So 5 first-round picks just for Rudy Gobert.
Dude, that's as many things as I have fingers.
Yeah. So
for Rudy Gobert, okay.
Rudy Gobert. So I don't
no shade to Rudy Gobert, but how many defensive players of the year does he have?
3.
Three. So three. Yes, he's elite on the
Yeah.
defensive end. Maybe generational talent on that end of the floor. Generational talent rim protector. But then he's, all-star caliber on the offensive end. No, nothing glaring. Is that player worth four rotational players and four
I don't
first
know.
round picks?
And the Timberwolves already have Cat, which we will get to in the Timberwolves episode, that Cat does like to play the four. They could slide him up, but they already have a bona fide center, and they have Naz Reid off the bench. So it's like, do they really need? And they're losing Patrick Beverley, their MVP of the play-in game. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. So it's okay.
Dude
If
who
it
took
works,
his
it works.
jersey
But
off.
if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So I don't know what the Timberwolves are doing, but
I would laugh
big
so
big
hard.
steal. And the thing about these first round picks is that if the Timberwolves, let's say they don't pan out, and by some like curse in Timberwolves history, Karl Anthony Towns leaves, Anthony Edwards leaves, whatever happens, and the Timberwolves are awful, their entire future is mortgaged to the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz will own the Timberwolves for the next 4 or 5 years, or whatever the picks are. So that's a big risk there. So I don't know, big gamble for the Timberwolves, but good finesse for the Utah Jazz.
For sure.
So moving on to the second trade, they traded Royce O'Neal for a first-round pick, and as you can see with these two trades, they're just definitely going to selling/rebuilding mode, and they're looking to. We'll talk about him a little bit. Definitely get that first overall pick for a special player coming up in next year's draft. So
Yes.
And finally, we kind of just want to talk about Donovan Mitchell, because he is the last remaining All-Star caliber player that they could definitely get a lot of draft capital with, especially from a team like the Knicks, who have not made the best trades in the past few seasons. So.
Knowing their track history, yeah. But
Yeah.
so Donovan Mitchell is a player who could very, very well be in a different uniform at the start of next season.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Jazz continue to go with this trend, like, hey, we're rebuilding, let's just start completely new.
Yeah.
Like, Donovan Mitchell, you're great for us, gave us 25, 30 points per game, but obviously it's kind of like a Damian Lillard type situation with him in Portland. Like, Donovan Mitchell, it's rude to say he's wasting his career in Utah, especially because I am a Jazz fan.
Yeah.
But, like, he's, like, nothing much is – what's he going to do in Utah? That's all I'm going to say. Like, what big notably is he going to do?
Yeah. Obviously, I could see him staying until the trade deadline, because the All-Star game is in Utah, so I could see him trying to just appease the home crowd and kind of stay there until the trade deadline. Then, like, if they're not successful at all, then he'd probably ask out or leave in free agency or whatnot. Let's just dive into the potential trades. Let's start with the Knicks that we just mentioned. First trade, the Jazz could get Cam Reddish, Obi Toppin, Evan Fournier, and Trevor Keels, who I think is a rookie this year, and at least three first-round picks, and the Knicks get Donovan Mitchell. What do you think about that?
The Knicks have had they tend to do these big moves like this, kind of shipping out a lot of players. Some might say irrational moves. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on this deal. I like Donovan. I love Donovan Mitchell. He's my boy, Utah, for life. But like I said, not much of a career here in Utah as of right now. Now.
Yeah, the thing that for New York that doesn't really make sense to me is that they just picked up a really small guard, a 6'1" guard, and Jalen Brunson in free agency. They gave him over $100 million contract. So if you're just going to pick up another 6'1" guard and Donovan Mitchell, like, what is the point of signing Jalen Brunson? So it's like
for $100 mil.
For real, exactly. So it's like you have two guards who can't defend, but they can score. You have R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and that's a team good enough to make the playoffs, I assume. But are they good enough to compete for a championship? I don't know right now. Well, against Giannis,
definitely not.
No. And against Boston and Brooklyn, no. So
and you could even say the Sixers,
Miami, definitely not. So I don't know what their direction is, but if they want to get Donovan, go for it. It's New York. Why not? Moving on to some other trades. We talked about this in our Miami episode, but we're just going to reiterate it. Jazz get Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, Omer Yurtseven, Kyle Lowry, and at least 2 first-round picks from Miami, and the Heat could get Spida. I'd rather do the Knicks trade if I were the Jazz, because you get more first-round picks and younger players. But if you want Tyler Hero, who was already a 20-point-per-game scorer for Miami, and you can give him the starting role, you can give him the keys to the franchise, have him do whatever he wants on offense. You could do that if you wanted. And you also get Nikola Jovic, who we talked about in Miami, who's a versatile player, and Omer Yurtseven, who's also a young, pretty versatile center. So
Yeah,
it's not a
but
bad trade.
the only problem I have with this trade is we've said it before, like we said 1,000 times, but I'll say it again. They're kind of in rebuild mode. Like
Yeah.
that's what they're doing right now. You can see that shipping off Gobert again, 4 first-round picks in return.
Yeah.
And then you get players like Kyle Lowry, who's nearing veteran time in his career.
He
I
is.
know,
You could say he's a veteran. Yeah.
yeah, I know it's always useful, it's always helpful to have that veteran court leader facilitator
Hmm.
who's a proven all-star. He's been there before. He has a championship. It's those guys are always those guys are always necessary, not necessary, but helpful
Important.
for
Yeah,
a
for
team.
sure.
Important for sure. But I don't know. I'm not in the front office for the Jazz, so I don't know where the minds are, if they're completely rebuilding or maybe get bits and pieces here like a Kyle Lowry type player.
Yeah.
So that's the only eyebrow that I have raised here.
Yeah. Maybe they just get Kyle Lowry and have him just be like more of a mentor role, have him come off the bench or something. Because they
Yeah,
still have Mike
exactly.
Conley. They still have Mike Conley. So maybe have him and Mike Conley kind of share that starting point guard role, and him just be a mentor. And maybe they flip him at the deadline for more trade assets or some just to get rid of that salary. So I don't
Reminds me
know.
of like a Ricky Rubio situation with Cleveland.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, for sure. These last two trades, they're less plausible and more kind of like hypothetical, I guess you could say. But the Jazz could get Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and 2 first-round picks from the 76ers, and Philly gets Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gay. And obviously, we've said it, the Jazz are in rebuild mode, but if they wanted a young player and another pretty decent player to kind of also compete, but like be the middle of the pack kind of thing, be a playing team maybe, they could get Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris and some more draft capital, while Philly gets another offensive superstar to complement James Harden and Joel Embiid.
I don't really have much to say because I really don't see it happening.
Yeah, I agree.
The 76ers are in the process of falling in love with Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a meme now, but the Sixers did famously choose to pay Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
So I know time has passed, but I don't really know what their stance on him. So,
Yeah,
but
they might want to write that contract out just because they paid him. So
for real, just to do it.
yeah. That's probably the least likely out of all the trades. But this next trade I found really really interesting when I was putting it together. The Jazz could get Jamal Murray from the Nuggets, who is just coming off an injury, at least one first round pick and a couple second round picks maybe, or maybe some pick swaps. And Denver gets Donovan Mitchell. So if you think about it, Denver gets an offensive superstar who's probably better than Jamal Murray at this current point in time. An offensive superstar who is willing to work on the defensive end. He's not physically he's not like a 6'7" player who can guard 1 through 4 or something like that. He's a 6'1" guard who will try on defense, but he's not the most capable defender, but he does put a lot of effort on that side of the floor. But his offense kind of makes up for that. So I think he'd be a great complement to Joker, and Jamal Murray could have his own team. And he's still like I think 24 or 25, so he's just entering his prime right now. So they could let him kind of do his own thing, and they get a little bit more draft capital.
Yeah, I actually like this trade a lot. Like I don't know how plausible it is or
Yeah,
possible of it happening, but I do like this trade. I do like the idea of Utah getting
hmm
a young star, not a young borderline all-star type player in Jamal
yeah,
Murray. I know it's always a risk, players coming off of injuries,
hmm
but that's just the risk you gotta take when you're rebuilding, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it's hard to just imagine now play out these hypotheticals. I guess we could do it on 2K or something.
Maybe
See what
I've
works.
never lost to you, so that's
Bro, if
I'll even play Utah. I'll even play as Utah. Come on
if
now.
you give me the Denver Nuggets, if you give me Nikola Jokic, I will not lose. I will
Cap.
not lose.
That's cap, bro.
Do you not remember I played you with the Cavs and Kyrie Irving won player of the game?
And I still
I
beat you with
dropped
Michael Jordan.
50
And
on your face with
Jordan dropped 92, bro.
All right, you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to say that.
That wasn't even prime Jordan. That was like 88 Jordan. So I don't know what
I
to
don't
say. I
care.
don't know what to
Can
say.
everyone play the game and drop 50 on you? All I gotta say.
Yeah. So speaking of players who could drop 50, I want to quickly talk about this upcoming prospect from France. I think it is Victor Wembanyama. He has gotten a lot of media spotlight in recent history. So I think he definitely deserves it. He is like, think about like a Kevin Durant. I hate comparing players to Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant.
Because they happen a lot.
Yeah,
Analysts just see a tall, skinny guy with a somewhat of a jump shot, be like, "Oh, Kevin Durant."
Yeah. But this guy is like, they list him as 7'2" or 3, but he's more like 7'5" or 6. If you see him standing, he's got insane ball handling. He can dribble. He's got a tight handle for his height. He can stretch the floor. He can finish with length. He can finish with soft touch, and he's a great rim protector. He's very agile in defense and very agile in the fast break. So he seems to be like a unicorn type of prospect.
Victor Wembanyama, his name. He is kind of the embodiment of the new age NBA with these stretch 4, stretch 5s, big men that are starting to develop more skills. Like today, I just saw a clip of Steven Adams, like shooting and like making 3-pointers, like because that's just where we are in the league. But this kid, this young literally like what 19, 20-year-old kid,
18-year-old,
18.
Dude, he's a year older than us. That's like crazy.
That's stupid. That is stupid. And he's not just playing like just random rec teams in France. Like he's balling up on the international stage against.
For sure.
I think he played Chet Holmgren a couple times against USA basketball.
Dominated Chet, bro.
Like this dude is literally 7'6". Just as a reference, the tallest player in NBA history is like 7'7.5".
Yeah.
Like this dude is like one of the tallest players of all time. And I know it's too early to say, but like kind of like shows like a handle on a jump shot like Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of scary.
That's scary.
And like with elite rim protecting skills, that's spooky.
If I'm the Jazz, I think my actions are completely justified if you're getting a potential generational prospect like Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, so we just want to touch up on that, give a reason why the Jazz are rebuilding, and yeah, we'll see a few other rebuilding teams like maybe OKC, San Antonio, Houston looking to get this guy, and yeah, I would not blame them. He is definitely a fantastic prospect. So that just about does it for Utah. Like we said, a shorter episode. So hopefully you enjoyed it. And Fred, you want to shout out the gram?
Follow. It's not a request anymore. It's kind of a demand. So actually, no. That's too strong. No. It's definitely.
It's more of a highly suggested.
Highly. Follow at the Pick and Roll Podcast. Don't forget the underscore.
Don't forget the underscore. No spaces. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.